$5 for the old reflecting pool.
Oh my God. I love the reflecting pool because it's so stupid.
It is the perfect example
Yes.
of exactly what we're going through in a really just clear-cut way. And it's rewriting history. They can't just let us have this.
You're right. It's a perfect example of the conspiracy theory propaganda that's because you literally have people out there in front of this thing. People have been talking about there will be an algae bloom. We heard this months ago, and now people are looking around and they're like, the leftist, Antifa is out here putting stuff in the water. Like,
What do we do about that, Amy? Like,
what
where
do we do? I don't know.
I can deal with a lot of this, but that is the stuff that drives me.
Agreed. Because if people will not acknowledge facts and reality, like how can you're like, okay, well, I guess
There's
you're
no
just gonna
point.
think that
They're
leftists
driving us to nihilism.
are sabotaging the reflecting pool. And did you see that they put the National Guard out there, like armed to the teeth to protect it? What are we actually doing, you guys? Like, please.
Welcome back to Everyone is the Asshole with Adrian and Amy, part 2 of our necessary reaction to the necessary conversation Leaving MAGA episode with Rich Logis. Enjoy! But first, just a little bit more on that Algae Antifa. So how could they pull that off with all the security cameras, 250 feet long gash?
I think they were able to accomplish that.
That seemed interesting, sir. I mean, he is diabolical in that because he's so dumb and he's sabotage. God.
They even hired his own pool guy to fix the reflecting pool. Whoa, what a loser.
And people believe that.
Well, like, they have to believe it because
that's what it is.
It is too humiliating. All of this is too humiliating. But this is the most depressing part, that we're at the most obvious answers of failure. The reflection pool, the little war that he got himself. I mean, everyone's like, there's no doubt this is failure. And they're able to spin all this. So do we just take over and say, y'all are
right? How do we do that? Like what like you're saying, what is I think it's to live in the
This is a prime example on the screen. We have what we all know is a delusional man in administration, and we have 3 people trying to drag this 70-year-old woman with her hat on out of it.
Well, I'll just say this. I think this is where, Mom, this is where I perceive you to be right now on your journey to leaving MAGA. We have had...
Why do you say that? It's like...
Think
about
this. Okay. When Dad was first not doing well in the hospital, you weren't watching news at all.
Right.
And that is when we began seeing a little bit of a shift in the way that you were responding to all the things that we were saying on the podcast.
Okay.
You cut all that shit off. You weren't newsmaxing every day. And when you were coming together with us to do this podcast, you were kind of like, oh, I guess that's not right. I guess that's not okay. So it already is in motion. You just have to eliminate all this garbage that you're being fed all day long.
Like, let me ask you this, Mom. Have you...
That's true. How do you like to be told you feel, Amy?
No, I don't like it one bit.
Me neither.
I don't like it even a little bit. And I know he said, this is where I perceive you to be, but he said, on your journey to leave MAGA. Like, you're, like I agree that I think she has come a long way in the past couple episodes. But again, I just want to be
Don't allude to it, dude.
Like, and of course, just as a show of respect, not telling someone about themselves, it's just never gonna work. It's just not strategically, it's just not gonna work. I mean, I think they're correct, but strategically to reach the goal, I don't think that it's gonna work.
It's, if you play out what you want her to say, is she supposed to say, y'all are right,
yeah,
I'm humiliated now? Like, I don't know if they're thinking it all the way through.
Well, but also, like you said, it isn't fair. It isn't
Right.
fair because
100%.
she is wrong and she has some odious beliefs that are harmful and cause harm to real people, animals, and which really upsets her, which I think that's a way in, which they have done in past episodes. But
Yep.
like all of that is true. And you shouldn't have to treat her like a baby bird. She's an adult person with a brain on her own. This isn't your responsibility. You shouldn't have to do it. But at the end of the day, is it, and this is something I had to kind of come to with my own family, was like, do I want to be fair and to me to be like, you need to admit that you're wrong because, or do I want to try to, because, and I don't necessarily think one is right and one is wrong, because again, it isn't fair. It isn't fair that you should have the responsibility to do this, but it's a question of what are your goals? What are your objectives, right?
Exactly. Because I think like the traditional psychology recommendation would be the kids need to walk away. They need to set up boundaries because they technically, like, if the shoe were on the other foot, I wouldn't want them trying to persuade. They shouldn't be persuading anyone. But I think that's the, I don't know.
That's interesting because I do though think that there's value to these conversations that they're having.
Yes. Yes.
Even if, because I think that there's value in the space, there's value in the conversation. And I don't necessarily agree, not with you, I don't agree with the idea of like, and I did at one point, but like a strict cutoff. I don't know that that helps anything or does anything or moves the needle. I think them having the conversations, even as they're having them, raw, responding to her in the way that they, like how they're feeling, right? I still think that there's value in those conversations, even though they're trying to persuade her. Because I think the other way, what I think is, and this is another like underlining the differences between, I don't really want to say two sides because there's more nuance than that. But like, if somebody were to try to convince me to go to MAGA, like, it's literally never going to work because MAGA is an evil entity that is actively harming people, actively harming the planet, actively harming literally everything it touches. And the things that I want and I stand for just aren't. They're helping people, like, objectively. I don't think that anyone could argue. We could say to Mary Lou, because this is a topic that she's come around on because of what's happened with Bob. And I think that Chad and Haley have asked her about it in episodes previous. You think that people should have access to healthcare if they need it, right? Yes. But my thing is, stop right there instead of saying, well, that's a socialist idea. Like, just stop right there. Be like, great, okay, what else can we
You should vote for the people that believe in that. That's it.
That's it. She doesn't need to call herself a socialist. It's enough that she says that she's for universal health care, because by saying that, we all know that's a socialist idea.
Right.
And
as long as she...
Step by step.
Yeah. Yeah, and she really does hate Democrats so much. You can see her seeing
It's
through.
because of the fucking propaganda. They're right. Everyone else on this call is right. Mm-hmm. They have turned, and all us progressives are over here doing is like, please, we want everyone to have free healthcare. We want billionaires to be taxed fairly so everyone can have access to safe housing and a safe community in a beautiful world that isn't, trampled on by industry and just extracted from and exploited. We are the good guys, okay?
We are the good guys, like,
we're
objectively, the good guys. Okay? We have our issues. Not saying perfect at all, but, like, we'll work with you. You just gotta,
This is an interesting approach. What if it was just like, okay, let's remove all labels from everything and let's just talk about policies. So would you think that it would be good if, in some things they're not going to agree on, like free college, because they're so
see through
Let's just start at everybody should have access to healthcare. Everybody should have access to a home. Everybody should have access to the food, nutritious food that will sustain them and their families. How are you going to argue with those if you just present them in that way?
I think they'll find a way.
They'll say they didn't earn it.
Yes. For all of us, guys.
All of us.
Even you
Everyone.
MAGAs.
All of us. And that's the other thing. I want Mary Lou and Bob to have free health care. I want Nick Fuentes to have free health care.
Yeah.
I want, no matter how odious
I
the
want
person.
all of the women that he doesn't sleep with to have access to abortions as well.
100%. But like, and I think that on its basic level, like, if you go to somebody, especially if they're, they say that they are part of the Christian religion in the United States, like, which one is better? Which one is closer to the teachings? Is it that we want
Jesus.
everyone to prosper and we want to do what we can so that everyone, even the people we don't agree with, that they can prosper? Or is it that we just want to hoard wealth and resources and cut off access like we're Smaug the dragon or fucking Scrooge McDuck?
How does the Christians,
Dude.
how is that compatible with republicanism?
That's a little bit testy conversation I had with my parents when I was just back home, because we were talking about Catholicism and I was bringing up about
Born and raised.
yeah, that's right. And we were talking about, they were saying, well, like, about how there was like the crossover for a very long time, still is, I'm sure, but I'm not a Catholic. You could probably tell me, but about like giving money, like you have to pay for your salvation. You have to pay. And they were like, and my mom said something like that Jesus never said anything about that. And I said, well, Jesus didn't say anything about a lot of the stuff that I was taught at the Baptist church either. Okay. And I said, he never said anything about gay people. He never said anything about trans people. And she was like, well, there were no trans people. And that's when I was like, yes, there were. There is historical evidence that shows that you are wrong. But there is a disconnect even there. You know what I mean?
I had a guy ask me, like, do you love Jesus? Which initially, like, that kind of question would be, I would just be like, oh, God,
Right.
But it was so specific that I actually, like, thought about it. And I was like,
Yes.
actually, you know what? Yeah, I think
Jesus
the guy
is
was
dope.
pretty base. Like,
Yeah, Jesus was based as fuck.
things I know, things I read or whatever, like, I
Read
think
text, man.
he was pretty much relatable as, like, someone I look up to. Now,
Okay.
religion, on the other hand, nah.
Nah, bro. Nah.
But Jesus, yeah, I'm down to, it's cool.
Jesus was a down-ass motherfucker. Jesus was like, oh, you want to follow me? Sorry, you have to give up literally everything you own, because we don't do that. We actually have communal property. What does
Right.
that sound like? Not capitalism. Not capitalism.
Jesus was a hundy socialist.
Oh, yeah. Jesus was a commie for sure.
Okay, this brings up, I have a question because I was thinking about this after our last episode about the zero-sum game and how the bootlickers for the billionaires.
Oh my
So how does that, when we talk about, like, these, Mary Lou doesn't want, if she sees somebody else getting ahead, is it taking from her? How did they not compare that to trillionaires? Because, I mean, those resources are gone. They ain't never coming to you. This is the biggest, like, thing they should be worried about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yes. But the propaganda is so good. And there's such, like, this virtuosity also in, who was I talking to about this the other day? Where, like, for example, my parents kind of grew up at a time where it was like, making money, working hard to make your money was like morally virtuous, ethical. And now I think that is falling apart because we have kids that, like, run into, supermarkets and scream and they make a quadrillion dollars on YouTube. And so I think that is at least that sort of idea is not, is even more obviously not supported by the evidence that we can see with our eyes, that I think that's getting a little, but there was just this very, very, very effective campaign over, what are we now, 250 years, and more, in the UK before, which, came over, But this idea,
And did their thing or whatever.
yeah, that you should just be grabbing and holding on to everything that you, instead of, like you said, instead of looking up and saying, wait a minute, I'm the one that's creating value for that guy. That guy never comes in. That guy's not in the factory. That guy's not doing a goddamn thing other than collecting checks that I make for him. But they have just so
Easier to punch
diabolically-
down.
That's right. And Nick Fuentes. Was it Nick Fuentes? No, Asmongold. Ugh. Asmongold was said, you know what? They're saying the top 2% are ruining your lives. It's the bottom 2%. That's the
All right,
dumbest
Amy,
shit I've ever heard.
tell me how much someone's SNAP benefits are for a year. Like, let's just think about the amount of money you're talking
Let's look that
about.
up. Do you have that? Do you have that up?
No, but
I'm gonna look it up. Like, let's take a look. You want to know?
oh,
Do you want to know annually, or let's do monthly first, and then we'll do annually. So let's say a family of, and everybody keep in mind how much shit costs right now. Okay, a monthly, the maximum monthly that you can get is $994.
family of 4,
Family of 4. That
less
means,
than $1,000.
That means that, and literally, Elon Musk like wipes his ass with $1,000. You know what I mean?
And that's
he didn't
what
earn
I'm
that.
saying. They compared. So you take that away and you like ruin or completely upend a family of 4.
And you're not even getting that money. That value is going to Elon.
Yes.
Fuck that guy, dude. I can't wait for him to jettison himself into space.
He is, and that's the whole campaign. Jeff Bezos coming out and trying to get people to be like,
I hate him too.
we should just do away with federal income tax altogether. And
Dude, fuck you, Jeff
we need
Bezos.
some math professors out
Watching this?
there.
I know you're watching this, Jeff. Fuck you.
I canceled my Amazon long ago. And guess what?
Same here.
It's saving me a ton of money and just not
yeah.
going on there because you made it addictive. Okay?
Yes. The dopamine hit from getting something in the
dopamine
mail
hit.
like 2 days after you order it. And it's not
And I
even
can
good.
still go on and shop and not buy, bitch.
Hell yeah. Fuck that asshole. Fuck you, Jeff.
You
Anyway.
can't buy a soul.
Really would love us.
this truthfully or not, but I'm curious, maybe you will. Have you had with yourself a kind of internal conversation that's like, what would it be like if I didn't support Trump? Have you ever asked yourself that question?
Not really.
Okay. I don't know if that's honest or not, but
Well,
Wait.
Okay,
Did
maybe
he
it is.
say I don't know
Yeah.
if that's honest or not?
Yes.
Like, how is that helpful?
Not at all. I thought it was a great question, very interesting, and I thought it too was interesting that she's not thought about that, but never did. I didn't think she was lying, nor would I ever say that to her.
And maybe she just isn't. I know.
Yeah,
I love you,
they're
Chad.
railroading her a little
Come on,
bit.
Chad.
Yeah.
you, Rich, is like, I think for a lot of people who are in this situation, like our parents or like our mom is, I don't think our dads are coming back, but from MAGA, I mean, I think there comes a point where, as you were saying, you've got all these questions now. You diversified how you're getting your information from different news sources, and it starts to open you up a little bit to the idea that maybe MAGA is a lie, maybe you have been hoodwinked, and what are you going to do with that new information? What was it like for you? I'm talking about psychologically, emotionally, when you came to that point where you had to make the decision, where you were asking yourself that question, what would it be like if I left MAGA?
When
How
you
did you like
stopped
reconcile
being
whatever? I'm
dumb.
sure that the feelings that you were having about that must have been insane.
It was beyond frightening for me because I knew that leaving would mean that I was going to walk away from my second family. And as embarrassed as I am to admit this, my second family oftentimes took precedence over my own blood family. And I spent time and money that in hindsight should have gone to my family, into my business. MAGA for me was an obsession. And I knew that if I were going to leave, it not only was leaving behind a second family, but I would have to also acknowledge that so much of what it was that I believed turned out to be a lie, falsehood, or conspiracy theory. And I would like to think that, I mean, I'm not the brightest or the dimmest bulb. I'm a college educated person. And I had virtually no curiosity when I was in MAGA, which is saying something considering that I used to be a newspaper reporter. But thankfully, the flame of my curiosity had not fully extinguished itself. And it was what led me to start to ponder these questions of, you know, why do I believe this? And is this belief true? And is such and such belief accurate? And it was a lot of personal turmoil for me to go through a process, which I had been MAGA for years. And I had been addicted to the rage and the fear of being in MAGA. And that's something that MAGA media reinforces and affirms, is that people don't tend to watch MAGA media to be informed. They're doing it because it feeds into the rage, the addiction to the rage and fear. You know, people don't watch Fox News to be informed. They're doing it because it's affirming for them the rage and fear. And I realized after leaving that when I was in MAGA, I was in these perpetual states of fear and rage and desperation and despair and panic and paranoia. And that's a really traumatic way to live. And this militant mindset of thinking that everybody who was not with me were my enemies was a really traumatic way of living. You know, it's why I lost contact with longtime friends of mine, because they had been blue Democratic voters. And I went back to them after I left MAGA and I said to them, I'm sorry that I spoke about you in these terms the way that I did. And all of them accepted my apology. And one in particular said to me, Rich, I always knew you'd come back. And I say that because for those who are seeing this, who have friends and relatives in MAGA, just as you guys do on the show all the time, we cannot give up on our MAGA friends and loved ones, because I believe that most people in MAGA have a red line. There will come a point where there will be one lie or one betrayal too many, and it will cause someone in MAGA to start to question their beliefs and to have doubts. And anyone who's seeing this who is in MAGA, who's having doubts, I want them to know that they are not alone, and that our organization, Leaving MAGA, is an organization where they can find the support and the services and the safe space they need to go through this really difficult process of leaving.
I don't think she liked that. Well, because Chad said hoodwinked.
Look at her face right now. Look at like where we pause. This is a, oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, really? This is a, I'm shutting down.
Yes.
Face.
Like, oh, you're calling me obsessive and like I'm addicted to something and I need therapy, and you're sounding like you needed all this and I'm just a regular mom.
Like,
okay?
I'm not like you. I don't.
MAGA what? Like, I just like follow the Republicans.
Well, the tragedy too, though, right, is that I do see a little bit of my own journey in what he's describing, right? Because growing up as being in a community where everyone was conservative, everyone was Christian.
Yes.
And not just Christian. I grew up in some very kind of what a lot of people I think would consider extreme fundamentalist Christian teachings, right? And as soon as I had brought back any curiosity at all, I wasn't disowned, but I hit a brick wall, and it did feel like, oh my God, I'm losing the thing that tethered me the most, because family was everything growing up. And so losing that connection was really fucking hard, and was devastating. You know what I mean? Because I naively really thought that when I came back and said, well, wait a minute, you know, I've learned these things and, you know, I'm questioning about this and that. I thought, oh, they'll be like, oh, that's interesting. Tell us more about what you think.
Have like a healthy conversation or even debate about it.
It was not like that. I mean, I think it's gotten better, which is ironic because the actual politic in the United States has gotten much more extreme. But for me, I think my family they're not MAGA. They're definitely not MAGA, but they're lifelong Republicans and they're lifelong and very devout Christians. And I understand it is really scary. You're like, okay, am I going to upend everything that has created my identity for
like, is it worth it?
Or should I just not? But the thing is, for people like you and I know this because I know you and love her so well, is that was never going to be that was never going to be an actual possibility for either of us.
We just couldn't. It was just a matter of time.
I can't see things and understand things and then just act like, and then just forget them and act like I never learned and I didn't. You know what I mean?
Honestly, I think that's a lot of the frustration between, like, if you think about yourself and someone else that is going to stay in that reality. I think people look at me sometimes like, why can't you just do this? Like, this is the way life
why do you have to make trouble? Why do you have to cause, like, we're the problem? Like,
because I can't. Because I can't, okay?
Well, because, like, literally, what you're saying to me is internally incoherent and inconsistent. I cannot, like, hear you say that Jesus is Lord and Jesus is King, but you hate immigrants. But you don't think people should, you know what I mean? Like, I just,
like, I know you want me to pretend that this is not.
I can't pretend. And neither can you.
No. And more important, we are correct too, as well.
It doesn't hurt that we are right.
We're hearing all this. I have to imagine some of it is hitting home with you. There's a lot of things that we're just talking about in terms of why you got into MAGA that applies to you one for one. He's now talking about the red line. You have yourself on the show given us a couple of red lines. Using a nuclear weapon in Iran, pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell, some kind of credible information coming out in the Epstein files about something Trump did. Those are all things that you have stated on this show would be red lines. Prior to that, though, we've been inching up, through the years of all these other things, even starting a war with Iran. You thought he would never do that because he ran on that. So that is now an open lie. Obviously, we're in week 16, I think, of that war.
But Friday, they're going to sign
Are you ready to humiliate yourself, Mom?
Oh no.
The agreement.
to go back to the way things were before the war.
Right, will be open. There'll be a 60-day negotiation.
Yeah, we'll see.
Ceasefire. So see, I still support Trump because there are issues that I do agree with him on. There are issues that I don't. But right now, the ones that I agree with him on, I like. I like he closed our border. I like that we have more reinforcement at that border because that was a big deal that scared me.
But that's what we're just talking about, that cycle of fear and rage. So it's like they scare you by saying, oh, there's 2 million psychopaths coming through the southern border. And then they give you the rage by showing you a video of somebody or putting out, like I know all the time in social media, you're talking about like this guy got into a car crash on the highway because he can't even read English. So that's the rage. They give you the fear that these immigrants are coming, and then they give you the rage.
Right here in Oklahoma City.
But what you're not seeing, I guess,
I thought that was you talking.
It wasn't.
is that there's a lot of concentration camps in Texas. Some of them are exclusively children. You know
That's
that they've
right.
captured like 500 kids here in Texas?
No, I have
Babies
to.
in these concentration camps. How is that making the United States safer? Are they really doing their jobs?
And we also found the other ones that came over that nobody knew where those poor children were, and we did find some of those.
But
Okay.
what about the
What
kids?
does that have to do with what Haley's saying? You deflect kind of constantly. Whenever Haley or I bring up a point, you always deflect to like, what about Biden or what about this or
I mean,
what
she's
about that?
right.
Let me ask you this, Rich. I assume you get messages all the time from people who are thinking about leaving or they have a friend or whatever, people who are like teetering on the fence. Is there something that you found to be like an effective tool for somebody who's at that state to get them over the fence?
So
question.
we like to say that we provide a warm line for people who are having doubts. We have a nationwide billboard campaign where we have billboards all
The warm line is not what's happening on this episode.
Yeah, what do you do when you're in a completely different situation with a completely different person that's in a completely different stage?
Well, but they're like,
Unlike,
how is it
what
that you
we're-
help people come out? And he's like, well, we give them we give them space, we give them understanding. That's what I interpret as the warm. We give them grace. That's not.
yes, I see what you're saying, but I also think like you're just talking about completely different stages. Like people
Right.
reach out to
Right.
his organization.
Well, but that's family members too of people reach out.
True. Oh my God.
But
I
they're
mean,
like-
Chad wants it so bad. He's
know.
like wishing it into.
They're so. I mean, they obviously really love and care about their parents, or else they wouldn't be doing this.
But it's not translating that way. Although it should. It should. We see
Yeah,
it
it's
like
not fair.
that.
They're trying. They're making space.
But
And
she
again-
doesn't hear it that
And
way.
again, it's not fair that we have to treat boomers like they're fucking Fabergé fucking eggs. But that's the reality.
Boom. But we do.
But if you
Until
actually
they're
want them
gone.
to change, you have to treat them like a Fabergé egg. You can say fuck it, I don't care because I don't want to do that, and that's a completely legitimate thing
Yep.
to say. But now I feel like I'm beating the dead horse, but I feel like when I look at my mom, I'm like, Fabergé egg, baby bird. How can I
Yep.
gently parent her? You know.
Because you have decades of experience doing not that and it
Yes.
not working.
And it doesn't. It never worked. And in fact, I think, to be honest, some of our interactions probably pushed her farther, away because
They probably felt good, didn't they?
They felt really good. And when I told her that I didn't think that Jesus had breakfast at brunch at the country club, I thought she was gonna slap me across my face.
I love that so much.
She didn't slap me. But
I
guess
had
what?
it. I had
I
one.
ended up apologizing.
Of course you did, because of course he had lunch at the country club, Amy. I did one of. Now, explain to me how one guy could build an entire ark and get each of every animal and then two of them at that. And what do you do? Like, the third one comes up and you're like, nope. I mean, I need to know the logistics, the practicality
Well,
of this.
it's
Like, do you really believe
trans
this?
women in sports? They're like, okay, show us your genitalia because we're gonna need one of each.
But what's so frustrating is when our minds think to do that, it comes off. I don't know if you got this, but I always got the don't be sarcastic.
Yes. And this idea of like you're being disrespectful as if the things that they're thinking and saying to us aren't disrespectful. But respect for a lot of boomers, I think, only
Is
goes
believing
one
the
way.
lie.
Well, it only goes one way, and I think the reason is their parents were fully traumatized by like depression and war and all of this other shit, and so they had no emotional capacity to like actually parent in a way that. So I do give her a little more grace because I honestly think that boomers were like fucking traumatized, and also that they've taken that trauma and instead of trying to understand it and be better, they're weaponizing it. So
Honey,
fuck them in a way, and also I still feel bad for them also.
I do. I mean, that's why this is all nuanced. It's like it's not
Right.
fair, but if we want results, I
That's
mean,
right.
guys, our president is 80 years old,
Dude, when is he gonna fucking die?
ruling us, our octotarians. So like, we got to find a better way to get him out.
all across the country right now. And the messaging of the billboards is very simple. It's having doubts, you're not alone. And anyone who reaches out to us, I personally follow up with each of them to see about if they want to take the next step, because the initial step is one of the hard parts. It's the first step of saying,
But he said it wasn't a cult, which I thought
said
was such a good line.
It's smart. It's a community, because the reality is they do have a sense of belonging. And there's
Yes.
not a lot of that in this capitalist hellscape that we live in, you know?
True. And I kept thinking like community. I don't really see that for Mary Lou.
I think it's Bob.
I think it's digital community.
Oh, I see. You're right.
Right?
Yeah.
I think she may be, and this is my personal feelings, no evidence, but I think she may be addicted to, at no fault of her own, no fault of her own, because they're built that way. And we all may be, in the way we all may be addicted, but like maybe some of this is, like she's for years had her media that, gets on her phone. So that we're talking about a separate thing of having to replace that entire action,
right.
which we all do,
Yeah, that's right.
and we just don't do it as badly as Miss Mary Lou.
Come on, Mary Lou. We love
I'm
you,
in
Mary
MAGA,
Lou.
I feel alone,
Almost
I'm
there.
afraid I don't support this anymore. We have more people
Baby
than ever
bird.
who are in MAGA reaching out to us, inquiring with us for help and for support. And the reason that I think that that's the case is because I believe that there are more people than ever who are in MAGA who have quietly left. There are more than ever who are in MAGA who are privately having doubts. And we started our organization as a community for people to come to. Because when I left MAGA, I consider myself very fortunate. I had nowhere to go. I left MAGA and I was at a crossroads. I had alienated my friends. I left behind a second family. I walked away from something that had defined my identity, my being, and my personhood. But I knew it was still the right thing to do to leave. But I had nowhere to go after leaving. That's when I started to eventually have an aha moment. And I thought, if we're going to ask people to leave, we need to give them an off-ramp. We need to give them a new destination. And that's the logic behind how we formed our community. And
Is this an off-ramp, Amy? Where is she off-ramping in this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think the off-ramp is exactly right. Like, that's what people need, but I'm not seeing an off-ramp here.
I think that everybody needs a community of some sort. It's not a want, it's a need. And I imagine, Mary Lou, and again, I don't want to speak for you, but I imagine that some of the communal aspects of MAGA, for understandable reasons, are probably appealing to you. They were to me. And I would, a question that I would ask is, and if you don't want to answer this, that's fine, but I do want to ask is if,
What?
Well, I was saying, and he's about to ask, I'm like, instead of making a statement, ask a question.
Yes. And he's about to ask a question that I'm going to prelude. I think works probably on a lot of people he talks to. I personally don't think it lands on Mary Lou.
who are in MAGA, and I've asked them, do you think that I'm your enemy? And a lot of times people in MAGA have not answered that question. And the reason I don't think they've answered it is because somewhere deep down, they are having doubts about their support for the president. I've had some people in MAGA say, yes, I think you're the enemy. You're a Democrat. You're, Democrat, KKK. I've gotten that. But I don't think you as a MAGA person, I don't see you as my enemy. I see you as a fellow human being. And when I left MAGA, just as everybody else who did, we become what I like to say, a born-again human being. And when you leave MAGA, you reclaim your individuality, your agency, and your empathy.
No, I don't see you as an enemy. I see you having views probably right now different than me. I appreciate all your knowledge and what you have just told me, but I don't see you as an enemy at all. I see you having different views right now because I still support some of the things that President Trump does do, and you don't, and that's your choice, and it's my choice. But you're not my enemy. You're a nice guy.
But Mom,
What do you think about that?
I mean, I understand why I guess he asked that question, but I'm with you. I don't think that it has the impact here that it's intended to have.
I think it
She's
builds
like-
off of the whole premise that this is an intervention because she's crazy and she needs help.
Right.
And what she's doing is this big thing where she, again, is like, I'm just a mom. I'm Republican. Y'all are dramatic.
horses and
Yeah, dude, I wear this little hat, but like, whatever. You guys are talking about therapy and all this enemies. Like, you're not my enemy. Like, this is crazy.
Also,
well, we have-
though, so she said in the past, like, because I think Chad or Haley or both have challenged her pushback a little bit about, like, for example, I think she said something about Iran, you know, killing its citizens for protesting, and they were like, well, hello. Like, that is, like, literally happened in the United States.
Yes.
And then she, you know, gets into the talking points about, like, well, he shouldn't have had a gun, which, of course, is, like, mind-blowing. That's the part that makes me want to just scream into the void, because it's like, oh, so now you think people with guns should get shot, when you've been saying all along that it's, like, the most important motherfucking amendment that we have.
That and free speech, one and two.
But two, they put before one, in my opinion.
Now they're both out the window.
Now they're both out the window. But, like, I think maybe getting it more to, like, okay, Mary Lou, let's say that you were there at the protest, and let's watch the video, and you saw this happening. What would you think, wow, I hope they shoot him? Would you think, oh my gosh, what's happening? Let's de-escalate. Like, what would you, as a human being in that situation, like, as Mary Lou, what would you, not now that we're watching it on CNN, not now that we've seen the footage, but if you were on the street, you were just going to get a coffee, you were just going to get a donut, and you saw this happen, would you be hoping that this man got shot, or thinking, wow, he deserves to be shot? I don't know what she would say.
I think she would be mad that you brought up such a realistic example that made her contradict what she actually is saying.
I think, though, that it's more about trying to invite them into investigating their own, instead of telling her what she should think.
Yeah.
Let's just do a quick thought experiment. Let's say that you were, you know what I mean? Like,
she does respond to that when Chad, you know, will say more of lay it out rather than like, and you disagreed with Trump on this specific
I hate it
point.
when he says that.
And
I love
because
Chad.
I don't think he's someone that's like trying to win or like show her up at all. I think he genuinely like wants his mom back.
I think that's right. And I think to push that next step, it's almost like there's a thing in lawyering and litigation, whether it be civil or criminal, where there's cross-examination, right? So you get somebody up on the witness stand and you ask them, like a hostile witness, what, you know, you want to find out. All the TV, movies, media is completely bullshit. It's not real. It's not how it works. You stop, you wait, you don't ask the next question, because that gets the person to be like, wait a minute. You wait, you say, okay, that's what I need to know. And I think similarly, just like, don't say you disagree with Trump about this point, just let it sit in the ether, just let it hang, and let her start realizing that the things that she is thinking on her own without you telling her are more and more contradicting what this piece of shit is saying. Bloviating is more appropriate, I suppose. But you know what I mean?
Absolutely. They gotta stop telling her how she feels either way, because if you notice, she rejects being told that she's MAGA.
Yes.
And she rejects being told that she's
not MAGA.
leaving MAGA.
That's right.
What do you take away from that, folks?
Right. It's just not working. And the reality is, you actually don't know what she thinks.
That's right.
Assuming that you know what she thinks. But, like, rather than doing that, spend your time just presenting her more and more, humanizing, doing these things.
Absolutely.
I just don't think that's helpful. And the reality, I did that. Look, I did it with my mom all the time. And what I started realizing is that I actually don't know what she's thinking.
And asking questions, like you said, right, when if she rejects MAGA, or if she rejects leaving MAGA, next question I would think would be, sorry, Mom, that was uncalled for. Please explain to us why you are MAGA or leaving MAGA. Right. What is your description of yourself right now?
There it is.
Put the ball in her, because we don't know, right? No. We know what she's not.
We don't even know anything, You know, we know nothing about what's going on in Mary Lou's mind, honestly, is how I feel.
She might not know either, honestly.
Yeah,
She
maybe
might,
not.
I think
Love you,
she's a
Mary Lou.
little turmoiled right now, but I do feel she definitely has checked out.
Are you a Democrat now?
So I'm a registered independent, and full disclosure, I did work on Kamala's campaign in 2024. I did outreach, I did media hits for the campaign down here in Florida. I did vote Democratic in
Biggest
November 24.
reaction.
I will vote Democratic this year. But as someone who's an independent, I think that it's best for me to keep some arm's length distance from the two parties because of our organization being a nonprofit. Nothing wrong with being a registered Democrat, but it's just my choice that I feel that we call in Florida NPA, which is no party affiliated.
Yeah.
And you know, Mary Lou, to your point, it's not to say that I agree with the Democratic Party on everything. I think that the party has its problems and its flaws, but I don't believe any longer that the two parties are exactly the same, which is what I thought at the time when I supported Trump in 2016.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That the idea.
Because I do think the parties, I mean, they're not exactly the same. Obviously, the Democratic Party doesn't have like as actively destructive and whatever. But guess what? The Democratic Party supports the genocide, guys. The Democratic Party is Zionist, guys. I do think they're more similar than Rich, because I think that corporate interests have
There it is.
have their tentacles in both, to the point where they're both shitty. And so
Who bailed out the banks in 08?
right,
Obama.
because they care about money, they care about power, they don't care about us.
For you, Mom, if we can get you to a point where you denounce Trump, where you say I am no longer MAGA, I don't think you'll ever be a Democrat or vote for any Democrat. But there's a big difference, and I think this is like, at least for me, it's an important part of like trying to get you to wake up a
This
little
is a
bit.
good point.
Is making you understand that we're not asking you to be a Democrat or a liberal or progressive in any way. Trump is a different thing than the Republican Party. And so when you're saying I still agree with a lot of what Trump does, there are a bunch of Republicans you can support who are kind of more like establishment politicians that probably have those same beliefs or would run on those same platforms. They just also aren't stealing billions of dollars from Americans through taxpayer money, or Trump setting up all these different funds and stuff where he's just like taking our money.
You and Haley, you and Haley have always labeled me MAGA. I've always thought I am a strong Republican.
You're
But then
wearing a fucking hat that says Trump 2024, okay?
It doesn't make you MAGA.
It
does it?
fucking does.
Yeah.
I did buy the clone in the shoes. That's about it. No, I got Trumpy Bear too. I do have Trumpy Bear.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's kind of. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Rich.
I don't
I think that
you're gonna
qualifies as
be
MAGA, Mary Lou.
Okay. If that's what it is, okay.
I want to say,
I mean, come on. But great point. She is, what's clear to me is she's wavering on MAGA.
Yeah.
Because otherwise she wouldn't have any,
No, because
Qualms
Bob
with
wouldn't
claiming it.
respond like this.
no.
No.
So that's an opening. But they are fucking jumping on her.
disagree. I think Mom would vote Democrat. If you did not label the two people running and you just let them speak their piece and give their platform without having those two labels, I think Mom would vote Democrat. I think that she doesn't because it's the label. I must be Republican. I've always been Republican. I think that's totally false. Mom has a lot of kind of like socialist ideals that she doesn't want to admit to, but I think that she would 100% vote Dem if there was not a fucking label attached.
Interesting. I don't know.
And I think, to that point, and Mary Lou, I bet that all of us here together have agreement, I bet, on important issues. We want economic opportunity. We want good schools for our kids.
Good
We want,
healthcare.
we want good quality healthcare. We want a safe and secure country. We might have some difference of opinion on how to reach those desired outcomes. But this is where MAGA media is really effective, because it's lucrative to keep us divided, afraid, and rageful. And I'm not saying that non-MAGA media doesn't contribute to polarization and divisions. I'm not saying that. But what I came to also understand about being in MAGA is that my information silo was detrimental to my empathy, because I saw empathy while in MAGA as a weakness. And I believe that it is now. I don't think that it is a weakness. And being in that information silo, I will tell you that any information that even remotely refuted the pervasively held mythologies and beliefs of the community, we shunned it. We kept it out. And I think MAGA media and influencers very deliberately seek to keep us divided. And despite our polarization, keeps us distracted from the fact that we agree on important issues more than we disagree.
And I do want to say this.
I'm afraid he's like speaking to us. Like he's saying all the things we want to hear. Is this hitting for MAGA? Because she seemed to really not enjoy that.
Well, but I think though that there isn't a message for MAGA. Do you know what I mean? Because the MAGA message is one, like he's saying, of divisiveness, of anger, of fear, of hate, of othering. And so, like, I don't know what the MAGA message is, right? You have to, it's kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out is the best you can do, because MAGA messaging is so
Good.
it's so good and it's so evil. And
Yeah.
it's so
I
like,
think it's the whole thing, and I love that he's focusing on that, though.
me
Like
too.
the influencers and their whole system, and how, I mean, I almost think like maybe don't worry about the actual MAGA people. They're always going to have their beliefs that we might not agree with. But if you can take away the source that amplifies it, validates it and makes it louder, but then I'm like, fuck, but they're doing that to us right now.
Yeah.
They're cracking down on Armenia.
There was a time when Bob and I did not talk to Haley and Chad. It wasn't as long as they say it was, but it was some months over politics. And I will say, I'm sorry for that to both of you. Politics is never more important than your family and children.
So even now, that is a shift, because in the beginning when we started this, that is not how you felt.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there's been some other shifts. I'm also curious, Mom, just like how it's affecting you to hear from somebody like Rich, who was probably deeper in the hole than you. I mean, he was working on Trump's campaign in one way or another. You guys buy the Trumpy bear and the balloon and stuff, but like you've never actively tried to help Trump get elected beyond voting and donating money to him.
I don't know. It sounds strange to me because he was talking about, like it was an addiction. Like if you have an addiction and you need help and therapy. I don't consider that for me being, I guess you call me MAGA.
You are. You wear the.
See?
Fuck.
Yeah, she resents
Of course
this
she's not going to
premise.
admit that she has a mental disorder is what she's hearing, right? And what I
When they're just casually on a public podcast, so casually saying, oh, you've been hoodwinked with your teddy bears. And she's going to be like, you're right, I'm delusional.
Yeah. I mean,
She's
I get
embarrassed.
why they're saying this, and I don't know what they could.
Not focus it on her. Just have a, completely, because we do a podcast about being on different sides of the political spectrum, we're going to interview a guy from
Right. And have Mary Lou ask him questions.
Yes. But it even felt like set up from the beginning when Chad laughed, when he introduced him. Like, can you believe we are bringing, the deculter to your doorstep?
Fuck.
You ready?
Not every time.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't
And
matter.
yes, it does. And all you're watching is Newsmax, and he's my president, and I'm a fucking patriot. Like, no matter what he does, you're always an apologist. That makes you fucking MAGA.
But I get what Mom's saying, and I actually agree with her. I don't think she's maybe as deep as Rich was. Like Rich, you're saying, it was your job to some degree, at least during one of his campaigns.
My life and my obsession.
Yeah, I don't think Mom is that way. I think she's made the decision on MAGA, and I'm going to support him and buy the stuff and whatever. And you watch Newsmax all the time, but it's not like your job necessarily. But what I want to ask you, Mom, is does it do anything to you to see somebody like Rich, who was in this even deeper than you were, by your own admission right now, but has now figured out that was all a lie, and he has changed his entire way of thinking about it? Does that do anything to you?
Well, like I said, that's his choice, his opinion.
Yeah.
And if that's what he wanted to be happy, I'm glad he did that. I'm not sad. I'm not happy right now. I mean, I still am going the path I'm going for now.
Right. I'm not asking you does this change your mind or whatever. I'm just saying how does it make you feel to hear somebody who was that deep into it, has now come out of it, started an entire organization to help other people come out of it, and is getting emails and contacted by multitudes of people who are coming out of it. So there's a movement happening here. That's what Leaving MAGA is. It's not just Rich. It's not just one guy being like, I started watching CNN and now I'm no longer MAGA. Right. This is multiple people, big chunks, some percentage of MAGA is leaving
I will say
it.
too,
Okay, I just want to repeat what his question was. Mary Lou, how do you feel that Rich, a guy from an organization called Leaving MAGA, is actually big in the business because so many people are leaving MAGA? How does that make you feel?
Right.
And this is her answer.
I was watching the news. I'm not sure. It might have been Newsmax with the fight at the White House, and then the big attempt that there were 6 individuals that were going to come in with drones and do some really big damage. And how scary is that to think that there's so much hate on one side that they would do that to innocent people? And that's very scary to me.
Right. So that's what we're just talking about, the fear of that. But then if you look at it objectively,
That's not what we were talking about. That's actually not what the question was at all. But that to me was such a deflection and huge. She cannot talk about how so many people of something she supports are leaving.
That was true. That wasn't fake news.
Yes, right. And Kash Patel now is in trouble. The rest of the FBI hates him because he leaked that on Twitter. And they were like, it's an active investigation, you idiot. You just blew that. Anyways, that's part of that fear that they put that out there. Kash Patel releases that information early when the FBI still has an active investigation. We stop these assholes, but those assholes are still out there, so be afraid of that. Meanwhile, you're saying, how bad is it that all these people want to do this terrible thing? Well, Trump himself has ICE now arresting people in Minnesota who are simply protesting ICE. I mean, we talked about this while it's happening. ICE is murdering U.S. citizens. So it's like Trump and his government are also doing horrible things, but you are fine with that.
I didn't know about the Minnesota thing you're talking about.
It's just happening today.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Not
I think,
current.
Mary Lou, maybe it's worth asking yourself, just like I watched the last episode where you guys were talking about the president and his sycophants in the Situation Room with the Epstein files, and that was something that you hadn't been aware of. Maybe it's worth asking yourself why you don't hear about these stories. And the reason is because the media that you're consuming is doing what I call lying by withholding.
Okay.
And they're not providing this information. If the president trying to do damage control in the Situation Room was fake news, Fox News would be all over it and calling it fake news, but they stayed away from it, just like other MAGA media did. And I think if you went on a MAGA media fast for 30 days, I believe that you would see some of your view shift. I say that actually with a very high degree of confidence that would happen.
Maybe I should try that for 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks.
Amy, how many weeks is 30 days?
I like how she's like, I can't do it for a month. I'll do it for 2 weeks.
But she doesn't even say that. She's like,
No,
I'm
she's like,
gonna
maybe
see.
I'll
I'm
do
gonna
it.
say 2 weeks. See if they notice.
Right. See if they notice. See if they know how many weeks are.
I thought this was the funniest part of the entire episode, and no one acknowledges it. I don't think.
Possible though, because Dad's in the living room watching Newsmax 24/7, right?
No, not now. He watches live sports. I maybe could do that. Maybe
I'd be curious. Like Haley said in the very beginning of this, when Dad started, having to go to the hospital and stuff, your days were occupied by that, like dealing with him and trying to get all your ducks in a row for Medicare and all that shit. You didn't even have time really to watch Newsmax or probably get on your MAGA Instagram feed. And we were back there. We shot that episode, a couple episodes, I think, in person at your house, and already we could see a shift in you just because you had been off of that for like a week maybe, and you were already like questioning everything Trump was doing. Or you, at the very least, you were accepting the information I was presenting at face value as true.
So are you saying I need to get, like when I get on Instagram, I need to like some liberal pages so that liberal stuff comes up, or
Do you
what?
follow Hasan Piker?
Yes, I do.
Do you watch any of his content?
On TikTok sometimes, yes.
Watch his content.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See
I
what he
like
has to
that.
say
Yeah,
about stuff.
watch his content.
I do like
See what he says.
I will.
Yeah, you say you like it, but do you think he's just lying to you?
I actually think Hasan Piker is so, and that's why they're attacking him. He's funny, he's gorgeous. Hey, Hassan. He strips it down and is like, I don't hate you. I want you to prosper. I want everyone in this country to prosper. What you're being fed is against that. What you're being fed is pitting people against each other. He's very well read and he's very knowledgeable, obviously. And that's why he's dangerous,
Yes.
because he is able to reach across and be like, hey, look at me. Look at me. Like, let's talk about this. And the way he talks about it is like, you can't really, you're like, oh, right. Like, you can't argue. And I think I would love for Mary Lou to start actually watching. This is a great by Haley. Haley, this is a great suggestion.
If I remember one time during their Wednesday when they showed clips and Chad brought in one of Rachel Maddow, I immediately was like, she probably fucking hates. She probably just hates her haircut, like just to start off, and then like hates everything else. And immediately she winced and was like, I hate Rachel Maddow. So even if her message was great,
Right.
I
It
know
doesn't
she's not
matter.
even listening to that.
Right.
So
We know she loves Hassan. That's a credible source where she, and again, he's so, I feel like even though he is kind of like, he's boisterous and all this stuff, but I do get sort of a, watching MSNBC, like a talking down to like a condescension, like a lecturing, like these people are idiots kind of, and nobody's going to respond to that. Talk about
No.
strategy, but like that sort of air of I'm better, I'm smarter, you're an idiot. For example, that's the thing. I think Helen, my mother, would be similarly with policies much more, at least centrist, if not a little more on the left, but she is very sensitive to when she thinks that people are calling her stupid, a dick, a redneck, whatever, any of those, any of that sort of je ne sais quoi that is put into, she's shutting down. And not only is she shutting down, she is getting aggressively anti that because she's like, fuck you.
Absolutely.
No, I'm not. You don't fucking know me. And the reality is Rachel Maddow doesn't know what happens in the South. She has no fucking idea. And so quite frankly, I also am like, you're not helping. Like, I don't think that
No.
you're actually.
She's for her audience.
That's
like,
right. She's making money, dude.
And I don't even know who that is. It's not me.
It ain't me.
But if I, that would be my like logistical number one goal with Mary Lou is to like find a ton of people that she could potentially like, because it's almost like get her addicted like she was to the right-wing media, to
Right.
healthier people
Right.
on. You could literally do what MAGA has done to her. Reverse.
Correct.
If you get her hooked.
And
But
honestly, Hassan is my number, just start
Yeah.
watching Hassan.
and if she doesn't, then go to the next, because
Right, of course.
otherwise she's out for the picking. She's gonna go back to what she's been drinking
Yeah,
from.
that's right. Because do I think Mary Lou wants people to suffer, wants families to suffer? No, of course not. But it hasn't, and I was going to say it hasn't been humanized, but in fact, it's been these things have been dehumanized for her. So For example, yesterday's Father's Day, actually Haley put like a very beautiful, sweet tribute to her dad yesterday on Instagram. Seriously, Chad and Haley, we really like you, so don't take all of this fucking episode the wrong way. But like, also,
I hope that's clear.
I saw this thing that was like, over the last year, like I'm not going to get the numbers right because I'm just blah, 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 but it was something along the lines of like this many hundreds of thousands of men, men have been detained by ICE. Those are fathers that are not celebrating Father's Day with their families. And, to just humanize, because Fox, etc., Newsmax, the right-wing MAGA media sphere just does such an effective job of sucking the humanity out of these. And so anything that can humanize, because I feel similarly about my mom. I'm like, my mom is a very generous, empathetic, loving, thoughtful, intelligent person. If someone was in the street, like the reason I asked, like, Mary Lou, what would you do in this situation? I think my mom would be horrified, traumatized, if she were to witness the police brutalizing someone, murdering them. But the right-wing media does such a good job of soaking any of that shit.
Don't feel bad about that. They deserved it.
He brought a gun. What did he think was going to happen,